Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 143. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us on this emergency podcast this Thursday evening. Dave, the news is essentially official. The reports are out there. Pen and paper should be meeting on Friday. Aaron Rodgers will sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This months-long saga seems to be ramping up, though in many ways, Dave, it's only just beginning. Tom Pelissero, Jerry Dulac, multiple reports on Thursday afternoon, shortly after 3 p.m. Eastern Time, indicating that Rodgers will fly into Pittsburgh on Friday, sign, and then be the team's mandatory minicamp next Tuesday that runs through Thursday before the summer break, before the team reports to training camp in late July. So we finally have some answers, Dave.
Our long national nightmare is over. No more speculating now, at least. Now we can speculate about what it will look like once he's on this team. And we already kind of have done that to some degree over the course of the last, since the middle of March, if you will, there. But I'm glad this part of it's over now, not the when and if and every other day, 9 different talk shows, and then the local reporters being asked every time they're doing radio interviews and all like that. So that thing was a grind, and it felt similar to all the conversations last off season with the Brandon Ayuk stuff. And I don't know, why is it always the Steelers that this stuff, at least as of late, seems to happen with here. But obviously the big story here is he's signing. Supposedly that's going to happen on Friday. Supposedly it's a 1-year deal. I don't think we've got any kind of reports out there as far as what the money will be. Obviously Aaron Rodgers dropped the 10 M's out there several weeks ago. I'll be surprised if it's that low, but I mean, he did throw that out there. So you can rest assured if it's more than 10 M's, that topic's going to come up at some point. But here's the gigantic takeaway, and at least one thing to look at. At least he is getting in there for mandatory minicamp this next week, even though it's 3 days long. Hopefully DK Metcalf will be there as well too, and you can get all these guys together and they can go through some installation stuff and start getting on the same page. And then if Aaron wants to get some of these guys together from that point forward out in California or Pittsburgh or wherever, so be it. So at least this line in the sand of mandatory minicamp, it appears that he's going to be on the field and taking part of that. So at least we won't go the 5.5 weeks, and the players won't go 5.5, 6 weeks wondering who their quarterback will be at this point. So, that's kind of the long and short of it, at least, as far as the immediate news goes.
Was that your first reaction when you heard the news that the signing was imminent?
Yeah, just glad. Well, A, just glad it's over.
That was my thought. There's an answer.
B, at least he's going to be in there for mandatory minicamp. Those were the two things. And in that order. That look, it's been no secret he's been linked to him and kind of been trending that way. And you go back a couple of weeks ago when he was at that concert and dropping those hints about Chicago and playing Minnesota. And I mean, there weren't many places for him to land anyway. And it was just it felt like a matter of when, not if. But
Right.
Obviously, the further that you got into this, you did kind of wonder, might he be considering retirement or what have you? But no, my first reaction really was, oh man, thank God. it's over with. And the second one was, well, at least I'll be there at mandatory minicamp.
Mine as well. And my third thought was clear Tuesdays. We're going to have Mike Tomlin press conference and Aaron Rodgers on McAfee each Tuesday. So that's going to be a jam-packed day. Those Wednesday show, Dave, should be pretty fun-filled. Let's hope they're fun-filled, at least. My other thought was when I first read it, as you said, this was always seemingly more when, not if, but it took me a second to register the signing was reported. When I saw in our group chat some Inside Baseball, our Joe Clark said, getting the Rodgers draft ready. We've had this post ready for a little while on Aaron Rodgers signing with Pittsburgh. I had to process it for a second and go, what's he talking about? And I checked Twitter and went, oh my God, it's actually happening. So there was almost...
I was downstairs. Of all damn times, I was downstairs and came up 3 minutes after Pelissero had tweeted out what isn't that the way it always worked? You stay glued in front of the damn computer for 20 hours a damn day, and then the one time you go down to cook some lunch or look in on the dog or whatnot, something comes across the Twitter machine. But at least my third thought was, you know what my third thought was?
What's that?
I wonder if he's going to be on Pat McAfee on Friday.
I believe Pat McAfee's off tomorrow. That's what
he is? Okay.
Tyler Scarvo said
right.
in our chat earlier. I didn't confirm that, but I believe it to be true. So maybe they're going to scramble and try to do something because it's a heck of a time to be off.
Look, I don't think people are hugely shocked that this news drops almost right after the OTAs wrap up, right? You know, it kind of, I don't think it's a coincidence. Let me put it to you that way. Because, we've talked about how Aaron seemingly doesn't like OTAs and all like that. And Mike Tomlin will pawn it off as, look, those OTAs are just learning and teaching and giving and receiving of information. And the good thing is he's here now for mandatory minicamp, and that's what matters. And we can move forward. He can get on the moving train real quick and yada, yada. And off we go into 5.5 weeks of downtime.
The question from a media standpoint is, will there be an Aaron Rodgers press conference tomorrow, or will he do that Monday, or will he just speak to the media on Tuesday when, of course, every media outlet under the sun is going to be getting credentials and showing up to Pittsburgh for the first day of mandatory minicamp?
I'm going to guess there will be no press conference tomorrow, but I've been wrong on that stuff before. I don't know
You
if
think he just speaks to the media just in a normal scrum on Tuesday?
I would think they'd bring him into the media room because of the national coverage it's going to get and all like that, and probably want him in a proper setting with the board behind him. But I'm just guessing here, and I haven't seen any media release. I mean, look, the Steelers haven't even announced it yet, right? So
he's going to come in and get signed first.
Right, got to take the physical. And if you leave it up to him, he'd probably say, "Let's do it Tuesday," But so he don't have to make any other special plans. But we'll see. But I mean, obviously he'll talk to him at some point. But if I had to guess, it would be Tuesday, and probably bring him into the media room so the cameras can all get set up and all like that.
Yeah, that's probably true, because if you do it Friday, you're just doing it all over again Tuesday. The media is not going to go away after that first practice. So that's probably the best way they'll go about it. He'll come in, sign tomorrow, probably no big fanfare, be maybe announced by the team on Twitter, social media, on the team site. He'll go back to California, fly back in Monday, Tuesday, and practice, speak to the media. Then it's my expectation of how this thing's going to go. But as you said, it's Aaron Rodgers, and no one exactly knows how it's going to go. Back in March 10th, day, when that first Schefter report tweet dropped about the Steelers having serious interest in Aaron Rodgers, who would have guessed we would not have our answer until June 5th?
I wouldn't have. No.
I don't like the team. Art Rooney admitted he did not think it would take this long, and that was like April 1st he said that. And so add a couple months to that, and the wait's finally over.
No, I mean, if you would have told me that what's going to happen in late March, I would have guessed by the middle of April. If you would have told me it's going to last until the middle of April, I would have told you the middle of May. And then here we are, almost 4 months from when he was released officially, right?
That would have been March 17th or so.
No,
I believe.
3 months.
Yeah. 3 months, but a long time.
And then, and the writing was on the wall anyway before even the start of the new league year that it was going to become official anyway. So, 3 months for sure.
Right. So how much does this change Pittsburgh's chances now that it's seemingly official on the precipice of being official. The Super Bowl odds, whatever it's worth in Pittsburgh, have apparently not changed at all. I think FanDuel, DraftKings have not moved Pittsburgh's odds one iota after this news, maybe because that the Rodgers signing was already baked into the assumption of Pittsburgh's odds, or they just think that Rodgers is not going to put this team over the top. How much does this actually benefit Pittsburgh? How much differently should we think about this team today than we did yesterday?
Well, like I said a couple of shows ago, when you asked, what's this new record? I think this has a potential producing 2 more wins. All right, so I envision this now as a turbo charged rock fighting team. Now, I still think that this is a team that obviously is going to want to try to run the football. Not get sacked as many times as they have, or did last couple of seasons. Obviously don't turn the football, and when you get down in the red zone, punch it in, and probably and hopefully a handful more of explosive plays. You obviously have a guy that's seen almost everything at the quarterback position as far as reading defenses and that kind of stuff. I don't think that you're going to get the play action that maybe Arthur Smith would like to have, because Aaron Rodgers just doesn't seem to be that guy, especially at this point of his career now. But this is a guy that I think that you expect to be able to get you in and out of plays, and once again, I still think the expectations are to dominate up front, try to run the football, and he's definitely still got the arm strength, in my opinion. Still can get the ball out quick. Get certain situations. Hopefully, he won't take 50 sacks is way too many sacks in a season. Period. I don't care who your quarterback is, and really 40. You don't want to see it hit that 40 number either. If you can keep it to 37 or 38, obviously not the most mobile guy at this stage of his career. But I think if you can stay healthy up front with that offensive line, and maybe if you get we'll see what happens if they go out and get another wide receiver weapon here. You have to kind of wonder if Alan Lazard watch is now, we're moving into Alan Lazard watch portion of the offseason now. But you got a guy in DK Metcalf. I tell you, the fourth thing that went through my head when that news broke was I kind of wonder if maybe we're going to find out next week that him and Metcalf had gotten together out in California, maybe this last week or whatever. But I wouldn't think they'd get together too much, because if they had, surely somebody's cameras. You can't run from anybody these days. You would think some pictures would have surfaced, but look, you got a big name receiver in DK Metcalf. You got a big name quarterback, at least in historical wise, in Aaron Rodgers. You've dumped a lot of draft capital into the offensive line the last couple of years. You got a new young running back that can run in a lot of different schemes. You got a couple of guys that he can at least get the ball to. So, am I thinking this is a Super Bowl quality team still? No, but as we talked, this team's got to get in the playoffs to win a playoff game, and I know that shouldn't be the standard. I know that Mike Tomlin's not going to admit that our only goal is to win a playoff game, nor will Omar Khan. But I mean, you keep going through this year after year, and you're pretty much in the same. You get the same results, no matter what kind of lipstick you try to put on the pig. I would like to think that this team can, maybe sneak into the playoffs and hopefully win a playoff game with Aaron Rodgers.
But does Rodgers change that? He's lipstick. It's a different looking roster. But we've had the same conversation about Russell Wilson last year and Justin Fields. Maybe that is the thing that gets you over the hump. I certainly believe that Pittsburgh is being driven and motivated by the weight of a team that has not won a playoff game for 8 straight years since 2016, their longest drought, essentially in almost NFL history, because there were no real playoffs in the 30s and 40s. It was a title game, but since the merger, their longest drought, a a team that has one playoff win between Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and Mika Fitzpatrick, that one going to Hayward. That, I think, gnaws at Mike Tomlin. He's talked about one of his biggest coaching regrets being not getting Marquise Pouncey's Super Bowl, and he had some playoff wins, and these guys don't have hardly anything. And so I think they look at a defense that's getting older, but still can be a top 10 unit, and they're trying to maximize what they believe to be a win now window. It's easy to disagree given the quarterback scales being tipped in other teams' favor, and clearly, as you said, I don't think they're contenders. No one's going to view them as Super Bowl contenders, but I think they want to try to get over that hump, and the calculation is you win a playoff game, you're one of the final 8 teams left, and so you got a chance just mathematically based off of that. Would Pittsburgh be the favorites even if they get into the divisional round? No, but you never know what could happen in a single game elimination tournament. And I think Pittsburgh's calculation has also been, we're going to be this patient. We're going to take some heat now because it's worth it in December and January when we're in the playoffs and we hopefully can win a playoff game. All the criticism about Rodgers is holding all the cards and holding the team hostage, and all the stuff the media has said will be forgotten and forgiven because Pittsburgh is trying to win and hopefully winning when the games start to count this season. So I think that's what Pittsburgh is hoping to get out of this, but will they? Who knows? And even if they do, who's your quarterback next year? That's the looming question. You're still missing that long-term answer. Pittsburgh, for the first time in franchise history, will start a different week 1 quarterback in 5 straight seasons.
Yeah, and you'd have to think 2026, you're going to have a new one too, right?
Likely, looking like 6 straight seasons. Don't know exactly how this will play out, but that would be the odds-on favorite. I think also, to your point earlier, and I mentioned this as well, I bet Metcalf and Rodgers were working out to some degree. If Metcalf's not at OTAs, where was he? Probably back in California. And yeah, I know that everyone has a camera, but they kept that first workout under wraps a little bit. We didn't hear about it until I think it was Metcalf's photographer that I assume got permission to release those photos a couple days after the workout took place. So they probably have a way to shield the public eye from taking photos.
I don't know. That's easier said than done nowadays. But I mean, at least that would help explain maybe a little bit why Metcalf hasn't been around the last 6 practices and all. So,
Right.
But I mean, we'll see. I'm sure he'll be asked. Hopefully, he'll be asked about that. And then obviously next week, I think all 3 days, Mike Tomlin is scheduled to speak all 3 days, and there'll be a lot of questions about that, and about the addition of Rodgers and what he thinks he brings to the team. And somebody should bring up, well, didn't you talk about how mobility is so important back in January, and you go out and get the oldest quarterback in the NFL? Look, they've got to win some games. They got to get in the playoffs. They got to win a playoff game. Period.
Yes, simple as that. I think Pittsburgh, I said earlier, with Rodgers, you're in that 8 to 10 win range, more likely to be a 9 to 10, but I think that's the range in terms of outcomes that would not surprise me if they won 8 games, or they won 9 games, they won 10 games. If you told me that now, you had a crystal ball, you time traveled back in from January to now to tell me what the record was, none of that would surprise me, but they're going to be in this general still 9-10 win situation in the wild card hunt. Decent chance they make it. Where it goes from there, we'll have to wait and see. But I still want to make the point very clear that the focus and litmus test for this success of Pittsburgh in terms of going into 2026 and beyond is to play this offensive line. How well can this young, talented group grow and develop? Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick. These are young guys that must play well. And Dave, is there any Steeler facing now even more pressure than Broderick Jones? Already so much pressure going into this year, make or break, tough last year, 5th-year option looming, going back to left tackle, no more excuses. He's back at his natural position. And oh, by the way, you're protecting a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. It's a huge, huge year for the entire line, but especially Broderick Jones.
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned when in the early stages, of us talking about Aaron Rodgers too, I can remember back to last year with the Jets, and man, that guy took some shots, and there were a couple of times I thought, man, just stay down. The fact that he was able to get up was surprising in and of itself. I mean, there were a couple of times last season where I wondered, man, is this it for him?
I'm sure he wondered that too.
Yeah, it doesn't take, you don't have to be Captain Obvious to figure out that a guy at that age, there's only so many type of those kind of hits that you can take, right? And continue to bounce back from those. And they're going to have to protect him. They're going to have to, and the best way to protect your quarterback is to run the football first and foremost. That way you're not dropping him back so much. But when he does drop back, they're going to have to do their job, and you can't, Rodgers is going to have to get that ball out. We can't see another 50 sacks for this team, because those are obviously negative plays. They're going to be probably too hard for even Aaron Rodgers to overcome on a regular basis. So, I mean, we're going to find out how good a job Andy Weidel and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have done at put draft capital into this offensive line, because you run a potential of knocking Aaron Rodgers out of the game or more. And once you do that, if you come out of this next season, not knowing, and there shouldn't be a gray area when it comes to Broderick Jones and the 5th-year option, right? It should be black and white. It should be, we want to pick it up or we don't. And if you don't want to pick it up, then you kind of wonder, does this team go back into next year's draft thinking we need another offensive tackle again, and then thus yet another first-round guy that you have that you didn't get to a second contract? So, yeah, big year for Broderick Jones, but essentially that entire offensive line, because you got a lot of early round draft picks in there.
All while needing a quarterback in next year's draft. So you really want the left tackle, the O-line to work out, because you have already capital kind of semi-earmarked for other positions next year. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Dave. Aaron Rodgers sacked 40 times last year. He starts all 17 games in 2025. Over under 40 sacks for Aaron Rodgers for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, from where I sit right now, I'm going to have to. I'm going to take the over, but hopefully it's not over much, because once again, you can't get to that 50. I mean, that's just too many.
Mm-hmm. He does have a quick snap to throw time. Ross McCorkle's dug into that data, and that's good. So stylistically, it's much different than Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, two quarterbacks that habitually hang onto the ball for long periods of time. He's not going to bail out of pockets the way that Russell Wilson or Kenny Pickett did. He'll stand, play within the pocket. I have a video that I had made back in March, Dave, on Aaron Rodgers, a 38-minute video breakdown on the good and bad of his 2024 season. Dove into his tape to talk about what Pittsburgh is getting. People can check that out on the site. So he can still play from within the pocket. I think the physical tools are diminishing beyond just mobility, but even the arm is not maybe quite what it was on some of those off-platform throws. So being able to throw from a clean pocket where you can have good, crisp mechanics, if he can be afforded that, he can still play at a pretty high level. But if he has to start playing outside of structure and having to play off platform too often, then Pittsburgh will not get what they're searching for.
I think I saw a graphic earlier today on interceptable passes. Did you see that?
I did not.
Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, turnover worthy throws. This comes from what's that data? I don't have the actual
PFF.
No, it's not PFF. It's from is it Fantasy Data, or I'm gonna have to try to find the address for them, but I'll tweet it back out so you can see it here. Oh, Fantasy Points from Fantasy Points. Let me see if I got the web address here. So it's at Fantasy PTS on Twitter, and the website I believe is fantasypoints.com. But anyway,
I see your tweet. Yep.
Okay. Turnover worthy throws. And I'm assuming this was from last year. Lamar Jackson had 1.3% turnover worthy throws and only 4 interceptions on those, I guess. Joe Burrow 1.4%, but had 9 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers was 4th on this list with just 1.7% turnover worthy throws, but did have 11 interceptions. So, I think the essence of this tweet was bad luck Burrow, and if you're going to go that far, you got to say bad luck Rodgers too, because Rodgers had 2 more interceptions on 0.3% more turnover worthy throws. So, you want to keep obviously the turnover worthy percentage throws down, and the interception's obviously on top of it there. But it seemed, based on this, a lot of Aaron Rodgers turnover-worthy throws were turnovers, right?
Right. He didn't get bailed out by maybe a drop pass or just something like that. And that probably was happening more earlier in the season. We don't have that kind of specific data, but from week 11 on, Rodgers was a much better quarterback. He completed 64% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He had a higher yards per attempt. I think a higher adjusted net yards per pass. All the nitty gritty numbers that you love compared to where his season began, where he had that knee injury. And I think the thing you can say about Aaron Rodgers is that he is a guy that takes care of the football. Even with the 11 interceptions last year, his interception rate was still one of the lower marks in the NFL, I believe. And historically, he essentially has the lowest interception percentage in NFL history. I think technically Jacoby Brissett has him beat, but if you look at quarterbacks with at least 2,000 passes, Brissett's not played a ton of football. Rodgers has so many more, multiple times number of pass attempts that Brissett does. So point is, Rodgers takes care of the football, which Pittsburgh, of course, values immensely. Right. Their whole mantra post-Ben has been protect the football, don't lose the game, we'll win the rock fight that you talk about, trust in your defense. And so Rodgers can do that, but he's not going to be playing in a shell like Kenny Pickett, like Justin Fields to a degree, although that was more manufactured and done by the coaching staff. He's going to hopefully give you some of those more high-level plays while still protecting the football. So I think that's what Pittsburgh is hoping to get out of Rodgers, some more efficiency, more volume, more big plays while still taking really good care of the football.
And look, he's obviously, this is going to be his 21st season, and he's seen a lot and all like that. But and I think last year was kind of proof of it. I mean, you go from a team that he knows a lot about in the Packers, and got some rapport and knows kind of the offensive linemen over the years, and the new guys coming in. I mean, for a second year in a row now, right? He's going to a new team, and starting anew again. Is there anybody on this team on the offensive side of football that he's played with before? No.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, not yet. So even with a guy that's been around, and then we saw Matt Ryan have to go. You see this around the league, a lot of times. How many quarterbacks come into veteran quarterbacks that have been good, at least good's a relative kind of term, but above average, that have gone to new teams that it kind of takes them a while to get their feet settled in their new surroundings. So that's another reason why you kind of wish that Aaron would have been around for the mandatory minicamp. Okay, he missed 6 practices, right? But how important will those 6 practices be going on in later on into the off season and all? At the very least, now he's going to get 3 practices here in mandatory minicamp, and at least he'll have that, and hopefully he'll stay healthy, and they won't put him on any blocking sleds or anything like that. when they show up to Latrobe, and we don't have a calf injury or a whatever that you're having to worry about within there. I guess the point that I'm trying to make, that it's experience and all, this is going to be a chore for him to come in right away and get to work with these guys and get on the same page with them.
My concern and my critique of Rodgers not attending OTAs has always been less about him. I think Rodgers himself can get ready, pick up the playbook, be good to go. It's more about teammates working with him, a young offense, Roman Wilson, the historical data, which I'm still working on compiling for young receivers working with Aaron Rodgers. They don't typically have success because Rodgers expects perfection and detail and everything to be done crisply and correctly. And so time lost is time lost, even if it is just 6 practices. The NFL is super competitive. Every edge is sought after and can be that marginal difference that becomes the reason why a team wins or loses. It's a league of 0.1%. You're 0.1% better in this respect. You're 0.1% healthier. You're going to have the edge because of it. So I'm certainly glad this is happening before minicamp. I think had this thing drug on past minicamp and he wasn't there for any spring work, I said this before, it's really hard, I think, to look at the locker room and say, this is your leader, this is your guy, don't worry, the cavalry's coming in July, we're going to be good. think it's a really hard sell at that point. So I'm glad it's happening. This is kind of the latest of when it could happen in terms of what I think was in the realm of acceptable for the team, the locker room to digest. But yeah, it's a good question, what you asked earlier about veteran quarterbacks, franchise guys, future Hall of Famers, or guys that change teams, the Matt Ryans of the world. Can Rodgers become Phillip Rivers at 39 years old? Rivers went from the Chargers to the Colts. Colts went 11-5. Rivers threw 24 touchdowns, 11 picks, and played well in their playoff loss. That's probably what Pittsburgh is hoping for.
I mean, I don't know where were you last year going into the season on the Jets? I was very bullish on them. I know, and I was bullish on them through the first 12 games or whatever of the season. They're thinking, surely this is the week, that they start turning around, because I remember I was saying they got so much talent on that team, and obviously added Devontae Adams by the trade deadline and all like that. But I mean, you look at their week one offense, right? Last year against the 49ers, Lazard, one of his boys, obviously had Garrett Wilson over there. Brees Hall, who I thought at times ran very well last year, had an offensive line left to right of Smith, Simpson, Tippmann, Vera Tucker, and Morgan Moses over there. Had a tight end in Conklin. Who were his other wide receivers over there?
Well, Mike Williams is getting healthy.
Yeah, Mike Williams. They had Malachi Corey as a rookie over there. Nothing else really sticking out over the top over there. But basically what I'm getting at here is he had a fairly talented, at least, receiver group and offensive line that he started with last year, and they started off they lost to the 49ers, they beat the Titans, they beat the Patriots. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses in a row. They 1, 2, 3, 4. They lost 7 of their next 8.
Yeah, the wheels came off. Coach got fired. GM got fired. Whole thing got turned on its head.
They lost because they lost their next 2 after the bye week as well too. So they had lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They went 1-9 after starting the season 2-1.
Tough year. A 5-win season. Rodgers' worst year of his career record-wise. I forget where I was at going into the Jets in 24. I thought the season would turn around at some point for them, and it never did. 2 years ago, Rodgers' first year, I believe I picked the Jets to go to the Super Bowl, and that went up in smoke 4 plays into the season when Rodgers tore his Achilles. So I was really high on the idea of Rodgers in New York for at least some period of time. I don't know my thoughts last year. How optimistic are you this year, Dave? I'm mixed. I just feel like it's going to be another 9-10 win season.
I think that's what both are worried about.
You lose it, and you're going to have to deal with the headache and the mess of everything happening Rodgers related along the way. So I've made the point. I think Pittsburgh's patience was their calculation, not mine necessarily. Is juice is worth the squeeze? It's worth to wait it out now and he'll be worth everything because he can win us a playoff game. I'm worried you're in the same spot because Pittsburgh is seemingly unable to escape this 9-10 win purgatory of being in the wild card hunt, either making it and then getting bounced or just falling short. And is that going to happen again this year? And then you got to deal with all the Rodgers stuff on top of that.
Yeah, and as a whole, I would imagine that is the biggest fear that most of the fan base has at this time. All right, we get to hang another winning season banner up in Mike Tomlin's locker, but are they still going to be? Is it going to be just good enough where they're picking 20th or 21st overall again, 22nd overall, and not have a playoff win to show for it, and off rides Aaron Rodgers into the sunset?
Well, that's not my biggest fear. That I think all those things could happen, but is it going to get toxic? Is the season going to feel completely chaotic and messy the way it was with the Jets last year, where, okay, Pittsburgh had a 10-win season this past year, but it was kind of more of the same. There were the down points and
when has it hadn't been been that kind of thing past the midway point of the season?
Yeah, but I mean, like, toxic, like, it got it's never been as bad as it got with the Jets last year. For all the stuff that's happened in Pittsburgh, people can disagree, but I don't think it was as bad as things were toxicity-wise with the Jets, where it just was a complete you-know-what show.
Yeah.
If you disagree, that's fine. I don't think it was as bad last year in Pittsburgh as it was with the Jets in terms of the chaos feeling of it.
Well, I mean, as you get into those final five games, it
was bad, but I mean, the
yeah.
Jets, like it became like a Pirates like circus of all that. Like the Jets stuff, there was the owner's son is running the team and making decisions, like that kind of stuff comes in, and that's the stuff I'm talking about. And I think Pittsburgh will hopefully believe their structure is strong enough in place to insulate against that. But that's the fear, where it's it's the results are the same, but the feeling is even worse. I think is kind of how I want to couch and frame it.
Well, I mean, my biggest fear is kind of the front end of that. Just and 9-8, 10-7, get in the playoffs, get bounced, picking 20th overall, 21st overall, have more quarterback questions going into next year yet again, and here we are again, back in the same place.
Yeah, that's kind of my expectation of how this thing is going to ultimately go. Big picture as we sit here in June, and I'll have official predictions right before the season starts. My kind of expectation is that it's going to be more of the same. The fear is it could be more of the same record-wise, but just a media mess, which hopefully won't have long-term effects, but it could.
The only good thing about Russell Wilson last year is, at least he said all the right things.
Right, and Rodgers is not a man who's ever said all the right things or cared about saying all the right things.
Right, and I guess what you're worried about is I guess the finger pointing from Rodgers himself, huh?
Yes, and just God knows what stories come about. Who knows? I don't want to get into hypotheticals about what stories may come around, but Rodgers is a guy that you know what you're signing up for. He's going to tell you exactly what the answer is. He's going to be candid. He's not going to give you the canned answer. If somebody screwed up, he's going to tell you. If he doesn't like something, he's going to tell you. If he gets released and he's got some gripe against somebody, he's going to tell you. The way that he ripped the Jets and their new regime, he did not hold back on that at all. So, I work under the assumption that anything you say to Aaron Rodgers can and will be used against you at a later date. And I don't think he's a terrible guy. I think he'll be a good teammate. I think he'll be a good mentor. I've kind of said, I push back on some of the narratives that he won't be those things. I think he will mentor and be a good ear for Will Howard. But when things go south, and Rodgers will let you know about it.
I mean, what happens if you come back from London into the bye week here and you're 1-3 or something, for whatever reason? Winning solves everything, right?
Sure, but are you going to get enough wins for a 9-10 win team? This is not going to be a 13-win team that's going to cure all the ills of potential bumps in the road.
All right.
So, I don't know. We have a lot of time to digest it, obviously, and kind of flesh out our thoughts. We've had a lot of time already to kind of get our thoughts and ducks in a row, but that's kind of my expectation is it's going to be 9-10 wins, wild card, more of the same. Pittsburgh still spinning their wheels, but he is the best option. He does give you the best chance, and Pittsburgh will hang on to that hope, and it's why they've waited so long for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and I think you got to boil it down to that. He gives you the best chance to have that winning season, get into the playoffs, and potentially get bounced.
Right. Yeah, it's not the most optimistic. It's not going to be on the season ticket email I'm sure they send out each year.
No, that probably won't be the mod. I don't think that'll be the preseason pump up video theme or anything like that. But look, I mean, you get into playoffs, anything can happen, right?
Right.
But you got to get there first, and this AFC North with Baltimore and Cincinnati's tough. We've already obviously gone over the schedule, and specifically you get into week 13 and on. You got Buffalo, you got Baltimore, you got Miami, you got Detroit, you got Cleveland, and then Baltimore again. I got a sneaky suspicion that those last two games against Cleveland and Baltimore will be crucially important games. What is the stat that you were digging down the other day? How many meaningless games the Steelers have played throughout Mike Tomlin's tenure?
Just one game that did not matter in the sense of Pittsburgh was eliminated from the postseason going into that game, and that was I always get it mixed up, either 2012 or 2013. I think 2012 was the only game that finale that season.
All right. So, all right. Well, we got plenty of time and to look at moving forward here when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. We will be back on the Friday show first thing in the morning talking about this and what else the other transactions and wrapping up OTAs and I don't know. Will we have the Aaron Rodgers particulars on the contract? We'll see. But anything else you'd like to add about this?
Yeah, let me just get to a couple quick things. And we're famously running long here. There's just so much to react to finally kind of get all of our thoughts officially out without the whole hypothetical. If he signs, does he sign? I don't think Pittsburgh will play meaningless games in 2025. I think they'll be competitive wire to wire because they almost always are. And Rodgers, I think, will help support that and further that cause. Give me your prediction for the up to money or whatever, the max amount of money that Rodgers will potentially earn in his contract in 2025.
I've said it's probably going to be anywhere between 10 and 25 million. And I know that's a large range, but when you have,
take a guess. Give me one firm number.
I think it's going to be about 22 million.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of my prediction. I'll go high end with incentives. The up to tweet that we're going to see will be $25 million. All
right. And generally they don't like to do that, but they did do it with Mitch Trubisky a couple of years ago, albeit with a much lower base salary and all like that. But yeah, I mean, I could see something like playoff per playoff win, AFC championship win, Super Bowl, where he could obviously earn a little bit more money, and why not? Even if you spend the cash that this team's, what I've said and think that this team's going to spend cash wise this year, probably not going to hurt you if you have to spend extra in 2026 because of incentives and all and basically any incentive that Rodgers would get in this contract, if they put any in there, would all likely be not likely to be earned. So they wouldn't go against this year's cap. They would go against next year's cap if he hits the incentives.
If they're tied to wins and outcomes, if they're tied to personal performance, he still put up some decent numbers on paper last year, but point taken. And yeah, Pittsburgh rarely does incentives, but if there is a time to do it, they have done it with quarterbacks, as you said. And for a 41-year-old quarterback on a one-year deal, probably the right time to throw some incentives in there.
Right. So I'm guessing the base will be somewhere around 20 or 22 million. Makes the most sense. Obviously, everybody listening to this hope he comes in at 10, and he might. Who knows? He might. But I'll have to see it to believe it if he accepts that 10 million.
Let me ask you one last question. I had tweeted earlier. I've said this several times, Dave. The Pittsburgh set to start 5 straight week one quarterbacks in 5 week one quarterbacks in 5 straight seasons. First time since ever Pittsburgh has done that. Ben in 2021, Mitch in 2022, Pickett in 2023, Fields 2024, and Rodgers in 2025, presumably at least on Rodgers. Rank those 5 quarterbacks in their current form when they took that snap in week one from best to worst.
I mean, Ben's going to be number 1.
Even at that time, I mean, that's not talking like all-time career, but just in that particular season moment.
Even at that time, I mean, he'd been there. He knew what was going on. Knew his personnel and all like that. One thing I would never do is bet against Ben.
Okay, so Ben's 1. Who's number 2?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be Aaron Rodgers, I think, number 2.
Okay, even over Fields? I mean, there's probably a good case to be made for that, but Fields giving you a different dynamic there, and then the list doesn't matter as much from there. It's more about where to rank Rodgers, but you would go Fields and then take your pick on Trubisky and Pickett.
Yeah.
I would go Pickett and then Trubisky for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, there you go. So we're going to come back Friday. We'll obviously discuss this a whole lot more, and we'll talk about the other transactions on Donald Parham, the safety signing, all that kind of fun stuff. But just figured it was a good time to pop in and react to Rodgers now that is almost official, but now officially reported.
All right, we're wrapping this up at about 6:21 Eastern time on a Thursday. I'll get this turned around for you folks as soon as possible here on the interwebs. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button upper right navigational bar. Follow the directions that way. And until a few more hours from now, until Friday morning, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.